Jen Werner here with Brian Baxter. Thanks for joining us for another episode of EVTV.
As the school year starts up, it's easy to see that there have been many changes to the school, not just in the physical space, but also in policy, most notably the enforcement of the dress code. To dive into the topic, we go to Alondra Escobar to find out just what the dress code is meant to enforce.
Can you tell me about your experience with the dress code?
I definitely had a situation earlier in the year. It was just kind of like a go home and change thing. Just basically a situation.
So my experience with the dress code is I was wearing my Daisy Dukes. I was looking like a real snack, I tell you what. Had the Caterpillar on one side, Mack trucks on the other. I was looking good. And then first when I got into school, I was greeted by the assistant principal and told I had to put something more on, which was complete horse crap, because you looked at most girls and their butt was hanging out and mine was right where she needed to be. And it was crap.
There has been a dress code in our student handbooks for many years prior, but this is the first school year where it's being widely enforced on the student body.
I guess the motivation was just to make sure students knew and understood what was in the handbook, so to call out the things that we wanted to match with what we said we would follow through on.
According to Mike Heaston, an attorney from the Student Press Law Center, dress codes have been upheld in court, but they must allow for expression.
Yeah, so courts have given schools a fair share of leeway when it comes to creating dress codes, especially, if they can, when they start claiming that there's some sort of safety reason for it, or trying to keep out gang violence. So yeah, they've been fairly deferential. They've let school officials, they've given them a fair share of leeway. But one of the things they've made it clear is that, that students do have the right, as you say, to express themselves in school. And so a dress code does have to allow for at least some of that. So, while they may be able to require that you wear a particular, pair of pants or skirt or whatever it is, they also have to allow for expressive activity. So if you were going to wear like an armband in addition to your dress code, and the armband was to protest the dress code or for whatever other reason, that would be something they'd have to allow, as long as you could show that there was clearly an expressive component to that. It wasn't just that you wanted a different style or something. There was an expressive intention.
According to the policy, the main reason that exists is to prevent disruptions in the learning environment. Although this is the main reason for the policy, students and staff haven't reported that disruptions in the learning environment are caused by student apparel.
Quite honestly, unless there is an actual disruption in my room, I don't notice people's clothing. And so it's not that I'm willfully ignoring the way people are dressed, but I'm so focused on what it is that I'm teaching that day and how my students are feeling and reacting that I don't really notice how they're dressed. Now, if there's a problem because of how somebody is dressed, then that's an issue, but it's never happened.
I can't say that it's a disruption. I've never felt that somebody showing too much skin or a belly or shoulders is actually a disruption to the learning. So I don't think that's the reason for that.
I don't have evidence that it directly interrupts learning.
We haven't found evidence that suggests that clothing distracts from learning, but the dress code is making an impact.
Well, I don't think that the dress code eliminates disruption. I think that enforcing the dress code creates disruption.
When I first got dress coded, I definitely was considering the entire week what I was going to wear. But as time went on, I just kind of realized that if there's a problem with how I'm dressing, then they should call my parents and not address me or take my education time away.
Again, I do feel bad because I feel like a lot of it's falling on the young women of our school. So that's, I think, feels inherently unfair. But at the same time, I think that we have to have some level of dress code, and I don't know where that point is. And as an admin, I'm glad I'm not an admin and having to make those decisions, but I respect whoever's doing that.
Schools have the legal right to enforce a dress code, but it has to be fair to all students.
If you're going to enforce something, it has to be enforced equally between all genders and all people, not necessarily just females. But again, it just comes down to the problem of how men are raised and how it's okay for them to view us as sexual objects.
There is no data being collected on dress code violations to prove whether or not our dress code is actually discriminatory.
I identify it as much as I can, and if I miss something or something isn't identified, it doesn't mean we don't care or we want to let things slide one way or another. It's just what we've happened to identify at that time.
That's all people really want, for things to be fair.
I just want to clarify that I'm not necessarily against the dress code or like enforcing it. I just feel as though it has to be enforced equally, or it shouldn't be enforced at all. And it should definitely be set up in a way where it's not targeted specifically for females.
This has been Alondra Escobar.
As we dove deeper into the dress code, a select few EVTV journalists found that they had more to say.
For their opinions, we go to Bernie and Hannah.
I want to talk about equality. The dress code is supposed to create equal opportunity for people to learn free of disruption. But enforcing the dress code unequally doesn't eliminate distractions, it creates them. When the dress code treats two girls who wear the same thing differently, that's unequal. There have been multiple girls who wear clothing that is considered revealing, but some are dress coded while others are not. Oftentimes, the ones who are dress coded are the ones who stand out because they don't typically wear revealing clothing. Other times, girls aren't dress coded in these clothes because they have different body types. Either way, the enforcement of this policy treats girls unequally. When the dress code includes policy that should impact students of all genders, but is enforced in a way that seems to punish females more than males, that is unequal. Admin are constantly dress coding girls for skimpy clothes, but we rarely hear about guys being dress coded.
When the dress code has rules prohibiting clothes that reference drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and weapons, but it regularly enforces that part of the policy, that's unequal. Students have been seen wearing clothes advertising beer or referencing drugs, more often guys than girls, but those clothes are not being regulated in accordance to the way the revealing clothes are. If the dress code policy is going to succeed in fulfilling its mission to create equal opportunities for people to learn free of disruption, then it must also be enforced to everyone the same. If you are putting a student in a situation where they are more worried about the dress code than school, or about how others are being treated differently than they are, then you are not eliminating distractions, you are creating them.
For those of you who have attended an Eagle Valley sporting event, you know it's pretty hard not to notice our school's hype squad.
We decided to see what those guys are all about.
I don't like to go to games, as I usually find them unappealing. I get bored often, but there's a group who are always standing in the front and willing to get the crowd in the game. That group is the Hype Squad.
The idea of a Hype Squad kind of came around football season last year when we had everyone around the bleachers just cheering on.
We drove to Evergreen, just 2 hours away to watch a high school football game. Like, nobody else wants to do that but us. We have that drive, we love chanting, we love talking to people on the field, on the court. It's just, I think it's something, and it's not like the school didn't make us, like, we made ourselves. Like, we paid for our shirts, we paid for this flag, like, it's all self-made.
The Hype Squad has engaged spectators in stands for the past few years, but their plans for the future after they graduate might surprise you.
So, I'm not going to pass it down, it's going to end with us, end of an era. Like, a lot of times you look back in the student section and people are having conversations or on their phone, they're not really paying attention to the game. Unfortunately, nobody's seems fit in my eyes.
In the meantime, we have one more year for the Hype Squad to hype us up. We are going to have to make the most out of it.
The legacy we want to live here at Eagle Valley is more than just what we are. It's not just like passing down shirts or getting new shirts. I think that's a little it's like redundant and small. Like the overall culture with all the things we're doing, including Hype Squad, including Link Crew, including all these other programs, I think it's a combined effort into the legacy we want to live. And I personally don't know what that'll be. I think it's still up for discussion, but I think it'll be something great.
Don't forget to join us next time when hopefully we have our new studio finished.
And thank you all for watching.